Welcome back, and it's the Year of the Bison with the 11.7 MiG-21 BIS. Now yes, the avionics and the weapons on this thing are quite a step up, but keep in mind that the MiG-21 BIS actually got nerfed in this update, meaning that it loses even more speed. Now it's not really that noticeable because you already dumped the metric load and like 5 or 10% more speed bleed. It's really not gonna be that apparent, especially at a higher BR where your enemies are already more powerful anyway. So the nerf in flight performance, you can almost chalk it up to fighting more powerful planes, and that's why it feels worse. So the plane is essentially what you expect it to be, and I want to warn you, don't be fooled by today's clips basically. This first game right here showcases quite well what it feels like playing this thing. It's definitely not unflyable, but there are a few drawbacks that you want to keep in mind in order to actually survive your game. Let's get started with the positives. You have an HMD with the R73 combo, which is pretty potent, and it definitely helps with a plane that pulls a shitload of AOA, so you're able to basically one-turn people very quickly, shove an R73 up their ass, and if they aren't aware on how to flare it, they're probably going to die to it. This will be your main gimmick, and it's pretty strong to a certain degree. So the R73s are quite okay, but it depends on the map that you get. If you get a map like Sinai, Golan Heights, and you can't really use terrain, you're basically boned. The multi-padding change made playing like this quite frustrating to play, especially since in a jousting duel you are at a major disadvantage. The R27R is okay in itself, but the radar scope of this thing is pretty narrow, meaning you essentially have to just full commit head on them, while they can go 90 degrees to you, almost notch your missile, and then still guide in their aim 7F. This is in my opinion one of the biggest downsides here. And it makes this plane quite frustrating to play if you don't get a map like the one you're seeing right here. On maps like this, it's actually pretty okay, because you are able to close the gap. When you have flat maps, you go to altitude, you are at a major disadvantage. And if you stay on the deck, the issue is because your airframe is so over-tiered, it is quite slow. It only goes 1365 before it rips its wings off. It loses a lot of speed trying to dodge these missiles, and overall it is just a terrible combination of unfortunate aspects. In itself, all these things separately are kind of okay, but everything together just makes it kind of frustrating. No, it's not all bad, you can get results with this thing, but in the up tiers, which are pretty common, I found that I had a very frustrating time. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that this is the worst plane I've ever flown, or something dramatic like that. I just had a not fun time in it whenever I got a map like the one I just described. On maps like this, it's pretty fun, and it can get some grinding done, especially with the R73s, point blank, and F14s are very common. But again, there is another caveat to this. While they are basically gonna die every time you shoot an R73 at them, because they are so damn hot, the Phoenixes without multi-patting also means that you actually have to work a little bit to dodge them. And if you try to simply multi-pat them, there's a very big likelihood that it will splash directly below you and blow you up regardless. So I like to just, again, sit in the terrain. Now I know where this F14 is roughly, so I'm gonna kind of just hug this mountainside. I don't want to burn to my fuel too fast, because, well, I only have 2 minutes left and it goes through it in like 30 to 40 seconds, which is a complete, well, waste of fuel. So I'm trying to find him again. I'm trying to get him to shoot more missiles at me so that he runs out. And I'm hoping that he actually commits to the fight, because if he doesn't, I am simply going to die. There comes the missile diamond. He shoots a Phoenix at me, I think at least. And we go back into the terrain, and we want him to start closing in on us. Now he is spotted by my teammate, I believe. No, the teammate is very far away. I'm not sure why he is spotted. It might be AI. At this point, I'm looking at him again. But I'm going to use this mountain right here. Yes, this is a mountain. I am Dutch after all. To turn around, we use a little bit of afterburner to just keep a little bit more speed. We hug this terrain here, and then we try to absolutely point blank shotgun him with an R73. And an F14 is going to have a very hard time flaring that. And in this case, I'm not sure if it desynced or if he didn't flare at all, but he ends up eating it, and we go into the next game. And of course, the R27 is very useful if you run into planes that don't have any radar missiles, because you can just force the head on. And they will have a hard time dodging it if you are able to just keep the nose on them. But again, at this matchmaker, that isn't something that you can rely on all too often. But if you run into something like an F5 or another MiG-21, you know, planes that don't have good radar missiles or none at all, they expect you to have something like an R3R, and it does catch people off guard. Now at this point, I am simply trying to frag out. I've had like, I did 5 games before this one, I died 4 times and I got 1 kill, because I kept getting up-tiered to, well, flat maps. So at this point, I'm simply trying to get as many kills as possible. I'm not really thinking about the long-term effects. I see the tornado, I'm gonna lock him up, and I'm gonna try to shoot him in the head-on, because the F4C is like dogfighting him. But I was hoping that he wouldn't go head on with us, so I could actually just gun him down. Unfortunately, it's the most aware tornado pilot, and we are just gonna shove the R27 directly down his teeth. And that is going to be kill number 3. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty okay, because this is the first, or the second time after like the first clip that you saw, to actually get a decent amount of kills. So I thought, okay, this is it. And I'm actually gonna try to do something. Now I have 1 R73 left, I still have all my cannon rounds. I am running dangerously low on fuel. Yes, it looks like I have 15 minutes, but you can tell how quickly it ticks down. And if I saved my fuel a little bit longer, I probably would have been able to just go a little bit longer as well. I'm wasting a lot of fuel here. I should probably go half afterburner. But at this point, I am thinking, let's go back to the runway, get some missiles again, and be on our merry way. So at this point, I am not conserving anything. I'm just trying to get the hell out of here so I can rearm and try to clutch out this game. Because you can tell that there is still a lot of enemies left, and there is not much of my team, and I'm going to need these missiles if I want to be competitive whatsoever. And I noticed the Mirage coming in. Now, it is an F1. So in a dogfight, I should be completely okay, as long as he's alone. Because if he has someone else around, he's basically going to push me slow, and then a teammate, for example, will simply kick my shit in. I noticed at this point that this guy is chasing me, and I'm not thinking about running forever. I'm simply trying to drag this guy away for a little bit, and that's why I'm running like 1% afterburner. So I keep my speed a little bit better, but I don't burn through my fuel nearly as quickly. I noticed the Mirage is kind of alone. I don't see anyone near him, so I'm gonna use this mountain right here to just turn in and see if we can merge with him relatively safely. I don't want to go too fast anyway, so like 0.95 is probably okay. I'm still going to shit away all my speed instantly, but this way I'm going to be able to at least get the first turn in. And then the second Mirage shows up, and I start, well, not really the panic, but I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? But then I see that the other Mirage actually tore his wing off. So we are kind of okay. I'm just going to recommit on Mr. I can't even pronounce that. The F1C here. We missed that shot, which is extremely unfortunate. Luckily, he turns back into us, and because the MiG-21 is so damn strong at like stall speed and just turning in like that, I'm gonna be directly on a 6, and we should be able to disassemble his plane into spare parts. Now when I say it's good at low speed, I don't mean that this thing is good in like a sustained turn. I mean that it's kind of good at like standing on its engine and getting a singular shot. And against an F1C, that really isn't an issue. We are only going 700, I need to get back to the runway. I'm going very low on fuel now, and I don't have any weapons left other than like the 150 rounds of the Kajusi, you know, the water pistol with sulfuric acid. And the F1C that tore his wing off manages to crash, which is good for us, because if that guy didn't rip his wing off, we would have been in the ground right now. But the MiG-23 and the other F1 are definitely closing in, so I'm going to be turning around. And I want to take the fight to them. I don't want to camp on the runway. I feel like I just want to fight them and kill them. And if it's only 2 of them, I might be able to do something. So I'm trying to kind of, well, mountain shark yet again. Trying to get them closer without them having the ability to missile me. And then the Mirage comes in. I lost the MiG-23 for now, but he's probably around the corner on the left there. So we go head on with the Mirage. We get a goddamn hit, which kind of pissed me off. And the MiG-23 indeed went to the left side. Now we are going to turn around, and I want to just get a head on here. But they are flying directly next to each other, and I'm not sure if one of them has radar missiles. But at this point, I'm basically forced to take it anyway. There comes R60, I think. And we're forced to turn. Now, I don't like turning with an MLA, definitely not. And I don't like turning with a Mirage together with someone else. But we kind of have to. At this point, I don't want to go head on with the F1. So we are just going to kind of go sideways to him. I'm not going to trade in the head on here, and I'm going to turn back into the MLA. I'm going to try to get underneath him. That works out quite perfectly. And then the F1C is going to end up stalling in front of me. Now the issue comes that there is another guy coming in called the Su-25. Now the MiG-23 is not afterburning at all, so he has to be super low on fuel. So I'm just going to be dragging him away from his runway. And I hope that the Su-25 breaks off because he sees that he isn't going to catch me. The MLA is super slow. He is not trying to give chase. Well, he is for now. He is trying to fly after me. But these guys are not going to be catching me. And if I had like 3 minutes more fuel, I would have fought them both right there. Because the MLA 100% would have died to me with that amount of fuel. Because he can't really afterburn. And the SU-25 is just a free kill. Now I misplayed. I should have conserved my fuel a little bit better. But at this point I'm super frustrated. Luckily they just break off. They let me take back off. The MiG-23 also rearms in the meantime. Like 3 people crash in the meantime. You have like the Kunas, the SU-25, and I think someone else ate shit and died as well. I'm not entirely sure who, because I cut it out. I stopped recording when I went to land. And while we are taking back off, we already have a dot in the area. Now I'm not sure which one this is. I wasn't expecting it to be the MiG-23. Because I thought he was much further away, but he's already here. And we are just going to shoot the R-27 at him. Now he doesn't look us up in time. He tries to kind of dodge the missile, but in the end he just kind of flies directly into it. And he ends up eating it directly in the face. Now we are going to start flaring, and we are going to make sure that he doesn't just straight up kill us. Works out quite well. We get past him, he's going to die. And we are going to be flying towards the last guy. Now I tell this guy that he can bomb like 4 times. He doesn't reply. I'm like, yo, if you have chat ban, just pop smoke so I know that you understand me. But if you're not going to reply to anything I do, I'm going to assume you didn't see me. And you probably don't know that I am letting you bomb. So I'm going to assume that you are going to assume that I'm going to kill you. So I'm going to kill you. It makes sense, right? So yeah, he doesn't reply. And I know where he is. So I just kind of lock him up. We prime the R-27. And the R-27 is going to be launched first. And at best he has an off 530, which means I have a massive advantage. So I just kind of shoot it this way. He eats it directly between the teeth as well. And that is kill number 8. It's essentially 6 kills and a loss, but I got 8 and a win. So here's the result. It's not super stellar, but if you are planning to buy this thing, which I don't really recommend, because there's really nothing to get in the British tech tree right now that is worth your time. You have the Sea Harrier, which is cheeks. You have the FG1 and the FGR, which are kind of cheeks. You have, of course, the Gripen, but that is also in the Swedish tech tree, which is a lot less painful to grind. So do with that what you want. And here's the clip that I meant, where you can see how frustrated I get. I shoot the R-27, he notches, that is my fault. And then I lock onto the F5. Now I shoot the missile, and the missile instantly goes for his missile. And then I think, well, I'm gonna shoot a second one. And he one flares the R-73. And I'm like, bro, this plane is already painful enough as it is. But this is a full down tier, so I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna farm some kills here. I didn't. It is just not happening. I'm gonna radar lock in, I'm gonna see, okay, this game is over. I'm just gonna see how good the radar gun sight is. And the radar gun sight on this thing is surprisingly okay, especially when you go this slow. And this dude is doing the cardinal sin of trying to reverse someone while also trying to stay at full speed. And that's not how it works. But I basically got 1 kill after expending all my ammo, all my missiles, and I already need to go RTB. At this point I was like, okay, fuck you, you're dying right here. And I didn't give a single hell about the entire game anymore. And I just wanted to get a kill and go RTB. We then killed the Tornado in the head-on again with an R-27. And we try to get back to the runway, which is a trend with this thing. You are not very good at staying in the fight for very long. And on the way towards the airfield, just like in the previous game that I showed you, this is also the literal game after the one you just saw, I get cut off again. Now the F4E is a plane that is kind of scary depending on how much fuel he is running. If he's on like, well, a little bit less than 8 minutes, that thing is actually pretty damn dangerous. And I do want to be careful, but we are at low altitude, he doesn't have pulse Doppler, so I don't really have to worry about radar missiles. But I do have to worry about his retention if he is very low on fuel. But I'm just going to turn into him here. We're going to start flaring. Completely okay. We dodge the Vulcan. We go up. And I'm going to instantly turn back into him. I'm going to bleed a little bit more speed than him. I'm on 10 minutes of fuel, so I should be pretty nimble. And I'm going to be able to pull directly into him right here. Now, if this guy knows that I don't have missiles, he can simply run away. But if he thinks I have an R-73, he's kind of forced to take the fight. But then he still dies. Now, luckily, he takes the fight. He takes the wrong approach because he assumes that he has to fight me. And looks like he isn't very low on fuel because I'm able to pull into him very, very easily. J-35 jump scare. Luckily, he doesn't really do anything. And we, well, still get a little dogfight. He dies. And we turn back to the runway because I still need to rearm. I have even less ammo now. I have 2 rounds and that's it. And then the last guy shows up. the MiG-21. Now, I'm gonna try to get to the runway and leave my J-35 alone. You could say you should try to 2v1 him, but I have a feeling that the J-35 is gonna die in the first head-on, and then we are just alone over there. And that's exactly what happens. The MiG-21 crits the J-35, and he is now chasing me. Now, I have one plan in the back of my mind, and that is getting a bit of altitude, trying to go faster than him, and make him try to gain on me. He might think, well, because I'm chasing the same plane, I can go the same speed. So I'm gonna try to sit near the rip speed and hope that he tries to catch me. And that's exactly what happens. He rips his wing off in a straight line. We go land and rearm. And then he says, fuck it, I'm gonna fight you anyway. Which is like very nice of him, because now I'm able to just shoot an R-27 his way. And you can tell that that was already too much cranking to dodge the missile. He calls me a coward. And yeah, I mean, I am. I'm just really sick of this thing. So yeah, that's me. Thank you for being a good sport about it though in the chat. But this plane is just, it's something else. And I'm gonna try to explain to him why I am a coward. And pretend that it isn't just because that's who I am. But you know, that's besides the point. And then we have the last two guys. We have an F5 on the RWR. And I already know that this guy doesn't have radar missiles, which is... It's good to know when you have an R-27, and I'm gonna keep my R-27 for this guy because it's 2v1 right now. The F5 is going an okay speed and he is flying towards me. Now I'm waiting for him to do something, and the second I notice that he actually pulls into the head-on, I'm gonna shoot it at like 2 kilometers, and at that point he is never going to be dodging it. And now it's 1v1, and the enemy is, I believe, a MiG-21 at this point. We saw him a few times on the RWR as well, and I want to actually fight him because I want to show you just how funny these missiles are. So instead of strafing him, because I was able to land twice in the last 2 games as well, I'm going to let him land and let him take off and have, well, I'm going to say a fair fight, but it's not really going to be fair because I'm on 9 minutes of fuel and I'm going to make sure to burn through some of it. So I'm going to have a massive performance advantage. I only have 2 missiles and we have terrain, so I can just block his approach, and I'm going to try to circle in here and just directly park behind him. Now he shouldn't be able to see me, I should be unspotted. And I'm gonna try to keep that little, like that bump in the mountain between us, so I can just kind of turn behind him and set us up for complete success. And there we are. Now he is going faster than us, but keep in mind we are in the same plane and I'm a lot lighter and I have a lot less missiles on us, so I should be catching him in due time, unless of course he just books it to his airfield and goes 1365. But if he does that, I can just go on mill power and wait for him to come out, because I do have R-73s at this point. Now I'm cutting him off towards the airfield because I had a feeling that's where he wanted to go, and I'm gonna cut my afterburner here and I'm gonna try to just sit behind him. I'm not really worried about getting the lead because I have a HMD R-73 and he has sideways popping flares, and if you have watched my IRCCM guide, you know exactly why that isn't as effective. Thank you all for watching, that's all I have for you today, and you'll see me in the next one.